Hello, Paul.
Hey, Max.
We have a very exciting guest today.
You want to tell everybody who it is?
Yes, comedian, actress, political activist, burlesque dancer, and this year's Palm Springs International Comedy Festival Diversity in Comedy Award honoree.
Yes.
Selene Luna!
Woo!
Ha ha ha! Look, oh God, so sexy. I want that dress.
I thought you had that already.
I want that dress. Does it come in my size? Ta-da!
Hey,
Hi,
Selene.
lovely to see you. Thank you for that nice introduction.
You're welcome. I love that red sequin dress.
Thank you so much. You'll like the story behind it. A very talented costume designer, my friend Sharon, made it for me, and it's an exact replica of Jane Russell and Marilyn Monroe.
Oh, that's why I love it.
Gentlemen prefer blondes.
Oh my God, you're a little girl from Little Rock.
Exactly.
Literally.
She's just a little girl from Little Rock.
Mhm.
She's so little, she could be from Little Pebble.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We have so many questions for you. Not only are you an actress and a comedian and a political activist, but you're also this year's Palm Springs International Comedy Festival Diversity in Comedy Award honoree. And it's amazing because you have done so many things. So let's just dive right in. How did you get started in stand-up anyways? I mean, how did this all come about?
Basically, my story is that after college, and to be perfectly honest, I'm a college dropout. It's not like I don't have a degree. I dropped out of Long Beach State University, 13 units short of a degree, because it was a math class and another class, some like science class. Anyway, I kept failing them, and I just couldn't pass. And I excelled in my major, but I was just like, oh my God, screw this. I'm out. So I moved to West Hollywood, and I started a little summer workshop of doing stand-up at the Melrose Improv.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know that place.
Oh.
Yeah, in the 90s or mid-90s, I guess.
Okay.
And so I started doing some summer workshop, and I'll share this with you guys. My biggest regret of my life, of my career, my biggest career regret was that at the time, during my little like summer showcases, Bud Friedman,
The Improv.
Wow.
who started the improv comedy clubs, he plucked me out of this showcase. He saw that I had the it factor. I'm quoting him. That's not something I'm saying about myself.
You got it, girl.
I agree. You've got it. You do.
You got
Anyway,
it.
well,
You can take penicillin for that, you know.
he gave me opportunities to, he really believed in me, and he really adored me, and he gave me opportunities to perform on a regular basis at his club, and but I was so young, so insecure, and so not ready. And back then, even in the 90s, it still felt like the 50s in a comedy club. At least from my perspective, it was mostly, white men. Sorry. They weren't friendly. They didn't welcome me. I was really insecure, and in my early 20s, I took it personal. They were just showbiz, and you had to be tough. And I didn't have it. I wasn't ready to play with the big boys. I mean, literally. And I was always really intimidated, and I never had fun there. I kind of performed off and on there for about a year, and then I completely dropped out. I couldn't take it. I dropped out because it was just too much. Like the misogyny was a little intense. And then, but being a little person made it extra difficult. I mean, you had to be really tough to to hang with those guys, to get jumped in, basically.
Yeah.
And I regret it that I just didn't stick it out. I didn't stick it out enough to prove myself to all these men. And had I stuck it out, I think things would have gone differently for me. So, long story short, too late.
Well, but you have other things in your life. You've got a wonderful husband now. That maybe that wouldn't have happened if you'd stuck it out.
That's true, and what a lovely
right?
thing to say. I agree. There's definitely been a lot
of found love.
Well, there's been a lot of silver linings since my dropping out of stand-up. I dropped out, and about a week later, this is too long of a story, but just to get to the nutshell, about a week later, I was at a party, and I met some gals who got me into burlesque. This was back in the early revival of the scene. And then I ended up touring as a burlesque dancer for about 11 years.
Oh my gosh, a long time. I didn't know that long.
And and then towards the end of that is when I got back into stand-up.
Wow.
Now, did you ever do comedy with your burlesque?
No, never. But I always thought my acts had a little tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah, for sure.
I actually really played up a sense of humor with my burlesque routines. I was never real serious or, hyper glamorous about it. I just, originally burlesque, came out of vaudeville, which is comedy. Comedy.
Yeah.
So I think my stripping was kind of like a comedy mime.
Yeah. I saw you once. You came out on a motorcycle.
Yeah, that was my favorite act. That was actually a tribute to my now late friend, Tura Satana, who was one of the original Russmeyer women. And that was kind of my homage to her.
Is it this photo we're looking at now?
Yes, that's my motorcycle. It's probably...
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I wish I would have provided you with a better photo of the motorcycle, because the motorcycle itself, if you turn it around another perspective, you could really see it's all encrusted with Swarovski crystals.
Oh, my God.
It was designed for me by a great friend of mine, Michael Schmidt, who's an incredible designer.
That's amazing.
That is amazing.
Well, like they say in Gypsy, you gotta have a gimmick.
That was my gimmick.
Well, how did you? So you just fell into this burlesque world and this job, and
I did,
and it spanned 11 years. So you were telling me before, because we go back a while, and you said that you went to Europe and toured all over Europe with Dita, and how did you like that?
Well, I didn't tour with Dita in Europe. I toured with Dita throughout the United States, but I had toured Europe previous to performing with Dita, and that was with the original troupe I was with, which was the Velvet Hammer Burlesque. There's really this was like pre-internet, so there's really no record of it.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Which, frankly, I'm pretty grateful.
But these photos are amazing.
Internet was not around when I was young and debaucherous.
Right? Oh my God! If there had been
Could
Facebook,
you imagine?
No.
Oh.
You're still.
No one would have survived. No one would have survived. Oh my God!
But these photos are amazing.
You were allowed to be silly and have fun and make a mistake and not have it ruin your whole life.
I made nothing but mistakes, and I had a blast doing it.
Oh, look at this photo. Tell me about this photo.
That looks like a plastic surgery mistake. My God.
Yeah, well, it was actually a play on plastic surgery. That photo was taken by an incredibly talented friend of mine, Tim Palin. He's a great photographer. But he was also a long time. I don't want to speak out of turn, but I vaguely remember his title at Lionsgate. I believe he was the president of publicity, but he was a higher ranking executive at Lionsgate Films. And so he also does, or did, I'm not sure if he still does anymore. He also did a lot of Lionsgate features. He did the photography for their posters.
Oh, wow.
That's amazing.
He's just an unbelievably talented person, and a great dear friend from many years ago.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I modeled for him a couple times, and that was one of the projects we did.
Was this for something in particular, and who came up with this concept?
It was Tim's concept, and it was just, I believe, for art's sake.
It's awesome. I love this photo. It's one of my favorite photos of.
Me too. I love it. He's incredible.
If you guys haven't seen a lot of Selene's photos, she's got this amazing gallery on her website, seleneluna.com. You guys should check it out. There's all kinds of amazing stuff on there. I love the photos that you have on there. We're going to show some more in a while, but they're so amazing. And you work with some of the most amazing people in fashion and photography and makeup and hair and wardrobe, costume design. Like, it's just incredible. All the photos that you have are just phenomenal.
Thank you. And really, I'm just very lucky because all these people that I've had the opportunity to collaborate with throughout my career, we're all just friends. And so, friends, we inspire each other and we get to do really beautiful things together. And that's really what it's been for me. So over time, I have this really great collection of images because of the incredibly talented people in my life.
Yeah, you do have a lot of incredibly talented friends.
Now, do you keep in touch with Dita? Do you?
Yeah, she's very lovely. I adore her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you in a book coming out soon?
Yes. Dita has a new book. She and our mutual friend Rose Apodaca, who is the former editor of Woman magazine. She's a fabulous woman. They collaborate a lot as well, Dita and Rose. So together they have a book coming out. I believe next year. It's called The Femme Fatale, and it's all about fashion and how to create your individual style.
Oh, cool! Very cool. What would you say is your individual style? Do you have a?
I could tell you.
Well, my individual style is just making it work.
No, you have great style. Every time I see you, you're decked out. But I would say you're influenced heavily on 50s, 60s, 40s, 50s, 60s, kind of fashion, but the glamour aspect of those eras, and also a throwback to Hollywood kind of glamour and pinup is. Yeah,
there is kind of a retro. I like it.
Yeah, retro glam Hollywood.
Oh, for sure. I love retro glam, and but for me, the way it started was really in high school. I was in high school in the '80s, and you guys weren't born yet.
No, I was in the '80s. In high school.
So
he's still in his '80s.
What?
So, no, I was in high school in the '80s, and for those of you watching that don't know me, I'm a little person. I don't know if you can tell, Yeah,
you can't tell on Zoom, can you?
You can't tell. No.
I'm a little guy. So I really struggled with clothing growing up. And in high school, I discovered thrift shopping. My girlfriends and we would go thrift shopping. And then that's where, for the first time in my life, I saw adult clothing that fit me, and it was all from the 40s. And so that is what really shaped my style, is literally trying to make it work. Everybody had cute outfits and stuff, but there was never anything my size on the racks unless I went to thrift shopping. So not only was it a bargain piece, but it was unique and it fit me. So, and I really got into vintage style simply out of efficiency.
But there a lot of people were doing vintage thrift shopping though in the '80s, right? I mean, if you watch
it's very cool
with Molly Ringwald, Pretty in Pink, they're all into that. I mean, it was kind of part of
the '80s was very retro influence.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah.
Well, my current style, if you look at this outfit, is doggy style. I have a little puppy on.
But that poodle is adorable.
Isn't it the cutest thing?
Is it true vintage?
No, it's not vintage. It's Heidi Dawes is a jewelry designer. Yeah.
Speaking of thrifting, did you have a favorite store in Hollywood or LA that you liked?
Oh, that's cute.
I had two favorite stores. I had a few actually, and one just closed. It was in Burbank on Magnolia, Junk for Joy.
Oh yeah.
They recently just closed. It's very heartbreaking. And also Aardvarks on Melrose.
Oh yeah.
Remember
Definitely.
Aardvarks?
Yeah.
I used to love Aardvarks. And then there was a little thrift shop in Whittier, which was near where I grew up, and I just can't remember the name of it, but it was really the turning point in my life. This one little thrift store, and they had a lot of great vintage in Uptown Whittier in California.
Wow.
That place was life-changing for me.
Untapped market, huh?
Yeah.
Did you ever go? There was a place in the valley that had stuff from movies. It was like a film thrift store. It was all
Yes, it was called second time around.
Yeah, second time around.
They had amazing things, and they would literally have the names of people who wore it, and
Yeah.
A lot of stuff from, and I bought there. I used to shop there too. A lot of stuff from soap operas.
Yeah.
So I used to get really high-end foundations that were worn once by like a soap opera star.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah.
No, you have great style.
No, thank you.
So after touring, what was your favorite thing about burlesque? I mean, I know you did it for 11 years. You must have found something you loved about it. What was your favorite thing about it?
I absolutely fell in love with it. I did. I think my favorite part about it was the camaraderie between the dancers. I mean, it's all stuff that happened off stage.
Yeah.
There were several things I loved about it, but the real highlights for me were the friendships and support that I developed with these women. They taught me a lot. And also, I mean, back in the day, you had to make your own costumes. You had to develop your own piece, do your own lighting, your own music.
Oh, wow.
You had to do everything yourself. I mean, we were kind of punk rock about it. And
It was a very creative effort then.
it was super creative. It was a very creative and fulfilling platform. So you have your little 3-minute routine, but behind the scenes, this was like an all-encompassing production.
Yeah.
You had to do everything yourself. We didn't have a budget. We were just creative girls who loved costumes and makeup.
Had you traveled? Had you traveled abroad prior to that?
I did not really for work. Not for work at all. I had been to Europe, like with friends in college during my college years. But touring with the Velvet Hammer Burlesque was really my first experience traveling through Europe.
Yeah, that's cool.
And then what made you move back into stand-up when you got back?
Well, yeah, I about 10 years. When I was pretty deep into the burlesque scene, that's when I met Margaret Cho, who needs no introduction, I'm sure.
Who we love. Yeah.
That's when I met her. And she started doing burlesque, and we kind of really bonded over that. And then she started doing a touring variety show that was stand-up comedy with burlesque acts peppered out. And I was lucky enough to be part of that. And so over the years, performing together in her variety show, she got to know me better, and we became closer and closer. And that's really when, she pretty much pulled me aside and said, "Why don't you do stand-up? You need to get back to stand-up." And it was very encouraging, because something she told me that I'll never forget is that in stand-up comedy, nobody cares what you look like. And that was what I look like was a barrier for me in showbiz, like just getting auditions or, acting roles. And so she's like, if you do comedy, as long as you make them laugh, nobody cares what you look like.
Yeah.
And that really kind of turned the light bulb on. And that's when I decided I need to get back to it. And also our good friend, Rico Martinez, he's a great friend of ours. Rico, he executive produced and directed Margaret Cho's reality show that I was on with her, The Cho Show.
Yeah.
And so between the both of them, Rico also pulled me aside one day. He goes, "You got to do stand-up." And through The Cho Show, they did a scene in one of our episodes where I'm doing stand-up. So they forced me to do it. They saw it. They're like, "We got to make her do it."
There
And
was a ton of hilarious stuff that you did in the Cho show, though.
we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun.
Yeah, I like that little Hitler bit that you did.
God. I know, we can never do that today.
There's so many things you can't do today. People are so overly sensitive.
But it was like, it wasn't intentionally like, but she did
Of
like,
course not.
she was doing the spray tan.
I did an adorable Hitler impersonation.
If that's possible. / Charlie Chaplin, right?
Yeah, exactly. You have such a great memory, Paul. Yeah, it started off I think it started off as Charlie Chaplin, but then I thought, wait, this could be a cute Hitler. Nothing cute about Hitler.
Nothing. But you guys were the same size.
Yeah.
And I love the Sherry Lewis and lamb chop.
Oh yeah.
That you did with Margaret.
Yeah, that was really fun. We did.
I used to handle Sherry.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's legendary.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, yeah,
I met lamb chop.
We did a little talent show where Margaret was Sherry and I was lamb chop.
No, that shit was hilarious.
It was so cute.
It was the funniest. I mean, I wish we had a clip to show that.
I know,
it was the funniest thing. Who came up with that? Margaret?
And I can't remember. And there was a whole team involved.
Yeah. No, that stuff was
I
great.
don't remember whose idea it was.
You did so much with her. Was the first thing you did with her just opening for her, or what was it?
The first thing I did with her was performing burlesque in her variety show.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there kind of started to evolve into doing more and more together.
So when you first started doing stand-up again, what did you talk about? What was the first thing that you said, this is what I want to talk about?
Oh, I'm trying to remember. It was really just motivated by my experience as a person with a disability. Just really talking about how I navigate through life and really just trying to make my experience universal so that hopefully people can wake up and smell the coffee to the social injustices.
Right. Well, and a lot of people say that comedians are all depressed and suicidal. I know. Trust me. I was either going to kill myself or do stand-up. That was it. I was literally completely. And I went and did jokes about killing myself, and they all laughed. Said, I guess I'll do stand-up.
Did
you ever go through that?
We all have a suicide bit. I used to have a suicide bit that killed.
But you talked once. I heard you talk once about you were really thinking about suicide, and you called a friend for advice.
Yes, and she told me, "Why don't you just jump off the couch?"
That's hilarious. I love your comedy. I want to know how it's evolved because I love your comedy. You have a very unique style. It's all from your own perspective. And has it always been that way? Because I've only known you from the last 10 years, but you've been doing stand-up way before that. Has it evolved? How has it changed since you started?
Oh, it's evolved. I hope.
Right.
It's certainly, at least my attitude and approach has evolved too.
Mm-hmm.
When I first started, my little reboot, my career reboot, when I restarted it with Margaret in my life, I really struggled because something that I contend with as a person with a disability is a lot of anger and resentment.
Yeah.
And, and I can't speak for the disabled community, but it's been my experience that is something we all share.
Mm-hmm.
There is a lot of anger because we are so discounted by society. And we really do, no pun intended, but we get the short end of the stick.
Oh, gosh.
And able-bodied individuals or abled persons, I don't know what you guys like to be called, but, abled people really take for granted the circumstances that we're in, and abled individuals take for granted that there are laws in place to protect disabled individuals. But what you don't realize, sure, there are laws in place, but don't think for a second that they're actually enforced.
Right. See, yeah.
The majority of the world is not accessible. And, anyway, I'm going to get into a tangent, and I'm trying not to.
I love your tangents.
But that goes back to how my comedy has evolved. So I started out, I think, very angry and not funny. And that was a real learning curve for me. It took me years. I mean, and I'm still trying to get it. It took me a long time to figure out how to convey what my message without sounding pissy and turning people off.
I love that about you, though. It's a little like, I love that your comedy has a little like bitterness, edginess,
it's not a
anger to it. Because, I mean, you have this hard and soft thing about you. That's what I love about your comedy.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
When you a funny thing when you talk about you use the M word and you use it over and over and say, I hate hearing it, but I love saying it. And then like almost like baiting the audience.
Yeah. Max is talking about using the word midget because that's something I contend with my whole life. It's people often want to know like how I prefer to be called, like midget, little person, dwarf, and frankly, I don't care what you call me. Just call me.
I love it.
But I am deeply offended, and it varies little person to person. Again, I don't fucking represent everybody.
Right.
But, oh my God, I just used the F word. I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Paul's a dirty whore. He's used to it.
Anyway, I'm offended by the word midget, but I can't stop saying it. I love saying it. I don't know. On stage, it drives home a point. But I just don't like that word only because it's only ever used in a derogatory fashion. When have you ever heard somebody say midget in a compliment? It's never a compliment. It goes back to the old circus sideshows where they would exploit little people and refer to them as midgets. And that's why it's offensive to me.
Obviously, it's about the intent. It's the meaning behind the word more than the word.
Right. And context is everything.
Mm-hmm. You have some great jokes about your experiences with the way people look at you and the way people treat you, not only in real life, but in show business in regards to your stature. And can you talk a little bit about that? Like what has your experience been like in Hollywood in regards to that aspect?
Well, in Hollywood in particular, and first I want to give a disclaimer that it's been my experience that Hollywood exploits everybody.
Oh, 100%.
I mean,
100%.
Equally abuses, chews you out, and spits you out kind of quality.
Yeah.
However, when it comes to being a person with a disability, in particular, a little person in showbiz, my biggest struggle has been being treated and seen as just a human being. Not even a woman, just human. Mm-hmm. Easily 95% of my auditions in 20 years have been for creatures.
Oh, my.
Yeah, it's and you never have lines because who's going to hear you behind the mask?
Oh boy.
A little person. I mean, things are changing now, but there's still a long way to go.
Yeah.
But that's also what motivated me to do comedy, because also it's the only place in showbiz where you have control of the narrative. Mm-hmm. So I felt that if I needed to be seen and heard a certain way, I better create my own material, because Hollywood is not going to do it for you.
Oh, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And I think that's important for everybody to know, even a cisgender white male. You got to create your own material.
Yeah, good advice.
But I feel like you're. It depends what you want to do. It could be a disability or it could be a superpower. You know what I mean? If you want to play basketball, it would be a disability. But if you want to be a spy and a jewel thief, that'd be amazing. You could hide.
Don't make those equations. That's a horrible analogy. No.
Is that terrible?
No, Max. No, that's so ableist of you. Yeah. Max, I love you. But you cannot. No, absolutely. That's not an analogy.
No.
No. Why don't you try being a person in a wheelchair and pull up to a fucking county?
Oh, no. I was talking about you specifically that, you know.
I mean, I use the wheelchair analogy because I'm like at the eye level of somebody in a wheelchair.
Right.
So, just try opening double doors to a building.
Ah.
Try.
I had to be honest. Like, these are things that, like, I haven't thought about.
Yeah, nobody thinks about it until it impacts them. And the irony is that disability is the most cross-sectional. God, I'm at a loss at this. The word I'm trying to think of, but it is the only cross-sectional condition that can impact anybody.
Mm-hmm.
All it takes is 1 second in your life to suddenly become disabled. You could be hit by a bus. You could be shot, randomly shot. In this world.
Often that could happen any second.
You could get a disease tomorrow. And it's the one thing that can impact anybody of any race, any gender orientation, any gender, but people act like it doesn't impact them. It's none of their business.
Yeah, I think people who are not little always tend to not take into consideration what little people have to go through and how difficult it is to live in a world that doesn't cater to them.
Right. And the thing is, we don't even need to be catered to. We little people, anybody with a disability, we just need equal access.
Right.
Society treats us like we're a burden. The only burden is that we don't get the equal opportunity, equal access. That's the only burden.
Yeah. Well, since we're on this topic, let's talk about you're not only are you a comedian and an actress and you do voiceovers for amazing stuff, and we're going to get to that as well, but since we're on this topic, you've been a political activist for a lot of different things. One of them is for supporting the Disabilities Act, and you have spoken in Washington, D.C., and you've also can you talk about that for a little bit?
Sure. Well, my entire life, I've always had a fire in my belly regarding any social injustice, not just for disabilities, but and growing up, the gay and lesbian community was very near and dear to me. I was always heavily involved with it because I did not have an outlet for my disability. There was no one in my world that I was not exposed to the disabled society. I had no support, and there was nobody in my world that I could relate to, and so that is why I gravitated to the gay community, because it was like, well, at least they understand how I feel. Like, I always felt like one thing we had in common was that we were born this way.
Right.
I didn't choose to be a little person, and my buddy didn't choose to be gay. So that is what really bonded me to the gay community, and I never felt judged, and I always felt appreciated and supported by them. So that's where kind of that equality activism started. But now I'm really focused on activism for disabled rights, not because I don't have anything better to do, but as a disabled person, you have no choice but to become an activist.
Right.
Because that's the only way you'll be heard and maybe get your needs met.
But you recently, we have a photo. Ryan, can you put up that photo with Maxine Waters and Selene? How did this happen? Like, Maxine Waters is amazing. Like,
I love Maxine.
How did that happen? Like, you were in Washington, D.C., and you spoke for the rights of disabled people and the Disability Act. And was this same photo taken at the same time when you
Correct. Yeah, it was. I was there for a week. I was there for the Nickel Conference, which is oh my God, I'm gonna screw it up. I'm getting too basically it's the yearly disabled rights conference.
Okay.
Every year, and it's been going on for just over 30 years. I think maybe 32 years. But I was there with them, and I became involved because I'm on the board of directors with Southern California Resource Services for Independent Living. And this is a large, probably the largest independent living disability rights organization in the state of California. So,
Right.
so with that organization, just simply put, SCRS, the acronym,
Right.
because of my involvement with them and the disability rights work that they do, I went with them to Washington D.C. And I marched in the disabled rights, march for the first time in my life, and it was really an incredible experience. It was the first time in my life where I'm in a room full of people like me,
Yeah.
not little people, just people with varying disabilities.
Right.
It's like, oh my God, it's like going to your first gay pride.
Oh wow!
But without the
I belong. I'm not alone.
It's like or it's like it's like coming out, and it's like, wow, for the first time in my life, a room full of people I can have a conversation with without having to explain anything, and just be embraced for who you are. So through my involvement with them, I had the great opportunity to speak in front of the Capitol on disability rights, and my focus was education. And there's grave inequalities for people with disabilities obtaining the same education as those without.
Oh, really? Wow.
I myself experienced it, and so that's what I spoke about. And the organization that I'm involved with, SCRS in Southern California, their main focus is education, providing equal access to STEM education to children with disabilities. Because without an education, your chances of living independently are minimized. And being an independent person means dignity, it means humanity, and we all should have equal access to it.
Yes, absolutely. And you were also there during the Comey hearings, right?
Yes, I was.
Oh,
what was that?
Is there dirt? Is there Comey dirt?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't have any Comey dirt. I wish I did, but it was a very strange time to be there. There was just so much
trauma,
political stuff going on, between our disability rights conference there, and it's it's grassroots. We're loud, and we're there to take care of Comey was there too. There was a lot going on during that time. It was an interesting time to be there.
Yeah, that's
so I ask, how is the current administration handling the disability? I mean, I almost am afraid to ask, but
I know. No, they're handling. Trump's an idiot. Are you kidding me? Here's my biggest problem. My biggest problem is not even Trump. My biggest problem are the people who voted for Trump even after he mocked the disabled New York Times journalist. The fact that anybody is cool with somebody who can stoop that low, to me, the people who voted for him are the problem, not him.
Yeah, that's
he wouldn't exist without them. He mocks everybody. Soldiers, people wounded. I mean, there's no...
But really, who makes fun of a disabled person? Come on.
Yeah, that's pretty low. That's pretty low.
Why was it picking on the most vulnerable in society? That speaks volumes of what a coward he is.
Yeah,
but there's no stopping Selene Luna, though. You received a certificate from our current Democratic Vice President choice, which is obviously Kamala Harris, and you received this certificate. Do you want to talk to us about that for a minute?
Sure. This was in 2019.
There it is.
2018. It was 2018. I was very fortunate and very lucky to receive a recognition by Inner City Struggle, which is an organization in Boyle Heights where I grew up. I spent the first part of my childhood within the East LA projects. And this organization is a grassroots organization that was created where I grew up. Also, Will I Am from the Black Eyed Peas.
Mm-hmm.
He's also from the same community. Actually, he and I, we went to the same preschool.
No way.
Not
I
at
love
the,
him.
not at the same time, but it's so anyway, just name dropping a little East LA talent. Represent.
There you go.
Well,
Did you get to meet Kamala?
No, I did not. But I was presented with this award for my work in the Latino community for being a positive Latino, I guess, role model, and which was shocking to me. But so what I received was actually a very important award. It's the Ruben Salazar Award. Ruben Salazar was a Latino journalist who was prominent and very vocal member of the Los Angeles Chicano community. Mr. Salazar was murdered in 1970 by a white LA sheriff.
Oh my God.
Was never prosecuted. He was murdered during a riot that occurred where Ruben Salazar wasn't. He was just reporting on the protest that turned into a riot. And what the protest was about, it was a protest against the Vietnam War because of the disproportionate number of Latinos serving who were killed. And so it was a tremendous honor to receive the Ruben Salazar Award.
Wow.
And that is what the certificate that was signed by Kamala Harris.
Wow. So you received the Inner City Struggles 2018 Ruben Salazar Award. You also received the Appreciation of Positive Representation of Latino Culture from the Congress of the United States House of Representatives.
Wow.
And you've marched in DC. You interacted and worked out rights for disability, the Disability Act, and all of that. But you've also championed LGBTQ, and I think we have a clip of you speaking that's pretty amazing. Can we show that clip, Ryan, if you can get it set up? And you're speaking in Sacramento, I believe.
Yes, in the Capitol.
Yeah, you're speaking at the Capitol in Sacramento, and you're so feisty. I love it. It's like it's such an amazing speech. But you've done so much for the rights of equality, really, for everybody, and I think it's pretty commendable. But if we could show that, that would be amazing. Just everything that you've done, like besides.
Oh, here we go.
Who's here to fight the good fight? Who's here to fight with me? Ladies and gentlemen, we all have our own stories of discrimination. I'm an immigrant from Mexico. My parents immigrated our family to the United States when I was 3 years old. My parents came to this country so that their children could have a life of equal opportunity. As Mexican immigrants, we suffered constant racism. As a woman, I know what it's like to be treated less than because of my gender. And as a little person, I encounter discrimination every day of my life, and I probably always will.
We love you, Luna.
Thank you. I'm here because I love you. So with that said, trust me when I say I feel your pain. But even with my pain, I am not denied the right to marry. I am straight, so I'm not going to stand up here and say I know what it's like to be gay. Just because I'm different and just because you're different does not make us the same. But we have two things in common. Number one, my body was not a choice, and neither was your orientation.
Wow, Selene Luna for president.
Wow, right? That would be amazing.
You were giving me Evita Peron right there.
Right?
Without the fascism.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was captivated by that speech. I was like, oh, it was giving me all kinds of
I know.
goosebumps and everything else. That was very empowering.
Don't cry for me, Selene Luna.
It's just amazing. You've done you fought you just like Margaret. You have fought for so many equal rights for people, for minorities, for LGBTQ, for people with disabilities. That's why I love you too. That's how I met you, was through Margaret and going to her shows. And you guys just are so amazing to me for all that you do. And I really appreciate all that you've done for everyone. And it's strange because even in this time, you're still having to fight. Everybody's still having to fight, even more so now.
It's unreal.
For all
it's relentless. I don't get it. Like, God, give a bitch a break, you know? That's all anybody needs is just equal access. That's it.
Yeah. And on another topic, I mean, let's talk about, you were in the 2018 Golden Globe Oscar-winning film, or was it 2018 or 2019? COCO.
I'm pretty sure it was 2018.
It was at the end, right? Like
2018. Yeah.
I love that movie.
It won amazing awards. There you are, right there on the red carpet.
I love that movie.
You played Tia Rosita in that movie. And how did this come about? And talk to us about the importance not only of this film as a all Latino animated cartoon film, but also, you know, the cast that was involved and things like that.
Well, it goes without saying, it was an incredible opportunity. You know, after slumming it for 20 years, you know, it's like, oh my God, I booked a Disney-Pixar film.
That's amazing.
Right? That's like a fantasy.
That's amazing.
It's a fantasy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so funny because I was on the road actually with Margaret. We were performing on the East Coast, and I got this email from Disney-Pixar's casting, and I totally thought it was spam. I thought it was some BS email, but thank God I opened it, and it was a request for an audition. So, but yeah, being part of Disney-Pixar's Academy Award-winning COCO was incredible. As Paul just touched on, it is the very first film in movie studio history to have an all Latino cast.
Wow.
Yeah, so we are taking all your jobs, guys.
You work with my dear friend Alana Ubach.
Yeah, oh, wow, she's a good friend of yours?
I taught a commercial class to Alana when she was like 13 or 12, something like that.
Wow, look at her now.
You know else was in that class? It was Brad Pitt's wife. There maybe not be a wife. I'm blanking. Angelina Jolie.
Oh,
they were both both in this class. They're like 12 years old.
I was gonna say he's not married.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Former wife, yeah.
But she's a doll, and she's so much fun and kooky.
I love Alana. Doesn't she have a house?
Do you record together, or do you record your stuff alone, or do you? I mean, are you acting with the person?
I never got the opportunity to meet her.
Oh, you're kidding?
No, we record alone.
Yeah, that's like you don't actually act with the person. You just do it with a microphone.
Yeah, just the microphone and the director.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's tough, right? Because you can't make a connection.
Well, that's the beauty in Lee Unkrich's talent. Lee, he was our director, and he's an incredible director. He, you know, it was my very first time doing voiceover, much less animation, and you know, because due to piracy and you know, major studios getting hacked and all that.
Oh, yeah.
There was a lot of security. So I didn't even have a script. And nobody got a script. You don't even know what it's about.
Wow.
And
really?
Yeah, I didn't get my lines till 30 minutes before recording. And it is and there's no like there's no rehearsal. You got to be a pro. You just go. You got.
So what was the audition process then?
So the process, it was very interesting. I mean, I learned as I went, and but again, that's why it's all about Lee Unkrich. He's such a great director. He was so calming, so helped me understand very clearly what he needed, and he got it out of me like immediately. There was no messing around.
What did they give you to read when you auditioned, though?
Oh, I can't remember. It was just like just some little blurb, like a few random lines, out of context.
Uh-huh. Oh,
things
interesting.
But once I was there, like my first day at work, then Lee explained everything. The plot, who's who, what's happening.
Okay, so they tell you what it's about. It's just not in writing.
5 seconds. Okay, this is what's happening. Go.
Yeah.
And
wow.
It all happened very fast, and it was.
Did you have any idea that it was going to blow up like this?
No idea whatsoever. I was shocked.
You just thought, I want to do this job and never think about it again?
Yeah, I only had my lines, not even an entire script, so I wasn't even sure. I didn't know what a beautiful story it was.
Yeah, beautiful.
It's gorgeous. And visually, and it really celebrates the culture, I feel.
Oh, absolutely. They did an incredible job doing their research. I mean, they spent a lot of time in Mexico, and I feel horrible, but I forgot the name of the town where they really do make these guitars.
Oh, wow.
And it's like the actual guitar town,
yeah.
and where they celebrate Dia de los Muertos, Day of the Dead. So they spent years doing research,
really?
And trying to find the right cast. I mean, it took them years to find Latinos, like real Latinos, to cast. Yeah. It was a very long process. And so I feel very fortunate that I got to do it.
Yeah, that's amazing that you've been a part of so many amazing things, like touring with Dita Von Teese, and who's a legend in her own right, and then touring with Margaret Cho, who's a legend in her own right, and then doing all this amazing political work, and then obviously all the stuff that you've done. I mean, you've appeared in amazing cult horror movies like My Bloody Valentine, which I love.
Fun.
And
that was really fun.
Yeah, and then you've done other stuff on TV and film and commercials, and this amazing COCO film. Like, what would you like to do next?
Keep the lights on.
That's good. That's a good start.
Well, that's a great question. I would love to do a sitcom.
Yeah. Yes. Speaking of,
that's what I would love to do next. American television has really made great strides in diversity.
Yeah.
But I've yet to see anybody that I relate to. And I know I'm not the only one who feels that way.
Yeah. No, I think that's an amazing idea. And actually we've been talking about some stuff, and we'll probably not talk about that right now, but we are currently in development on something with Selene that's amazing. And I think, it is time. I mean, I definitely think that you have a voice. I mean, not only are you a little person, but you're a woman, and you're a Latino, and you check all the boxes. That's why you're our Diversity and Comedy Award nominee or honoree this year. And I think it's so fitting. And I can't wait for more people to be familiar with you. But
we're going to find you a sitcom. We're either going to create it or we're going to find it. We're going to
We'll make it happen.
Yeah. Well, it's all like, they don't write your character. I had to look at something and go, oh, why couldn't this be?
Right.
Let's make this lawyer different than it's written.
Story of my life.
And you have
to be a man. It doesn't have to be whatever, Let's try something. And they're casting directors who are gay. They're like, okay, let's try it. We got nothing to lose, and let's see what happens. Yeah. And then sometimes the producers get on board and they rewrite the whole thing for you.
Yeah.
Well, fingers crossed. I should be so lucky.
Let's talk about I mean, when I met you, you were living in LA just like me, but now you're living out here in Palm Springs. And let's talk a little bit about that. You're in Palm Springs now. What made you move to Palm Springs? This is kind of a funny, but not so funny story. But it does have its, I mean, it's a little dark comedy, but why don't you tell us about it?
Well, I mean, I love Palm Springs. I don't know that it's that interesting, but I mean, really, I grew up in LA, and LA has really declined, and it breaks my heart to say that because I'm a Los Angeles loyalist, and I mean, all the greatest times in my life, happened in my growing up in Los Angeles, and but the city is really not what it used to be anymore. And a lot of major cities in this country are going through it too. I mean, there's a real disparity in income and class, and you're seeing it. Now it's like there's a real class gap. It's like the mega rich versus the mega poor. So the neighborhood I was living in the heart of Hollywood, I actually used to live in Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz's old Hollywood home.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, and it sounds fancy, but it wasn't. It was just a tiny little 2-bedroom house, and which I'll get to it in a second. But it was right on Cahuenga Boulevard, right in. I don't know if it is anymore, but back then it was called. The neighborhood was called TV. It was just Television Center. It was the neighborhood was called TV Center because that's where all the studios were. I mean, even up until when I lived there. So I lived there for about 20 years, but the neighborhood just plummeted. I mean, it wasn't a fancy neighborhood by any means. I mean, I'm scrappy. I've always been, but it got rough overnight.
Did you feel like you weren't safe?
It got scary. Wow. Like I was, and being in the comedy world, I'd come home at night, if I'm doing comedy gigs at the nightclub, and I was afraid to walk up my driveway. And it just got really, really bad. And I mean, overnight, it's this weird combination of these weird developments kind of displacing people. And then these people become homeless. And I don't know what the problem is, but Los Angeles seems to be a broken city. I hope they're turning it around. I don't know, but it just became unpleasant to live in my neighborhood. And I'm married now with a dog, and I'm older. I don't like to go out. I mean, so I'm like, why am I living in a city? I don't like to go out.
But a light bulb turned on.
Yeah, so that was probably too long of a story. But I moved to Palm Springs because I guess this is where, I don't know, this is where all the peace and glamour kind of still remains.
And now you guys have been doing comedy there. Well, if there's ever live comedy again, you guys were doing a weekly comedy show that was fantastic.
Well, it worked out wonderfully because as soon as I moved to Palm Springs, greatest move of my life, I connected with Paul, and we immediately got to work, and we started producing the only comedy show in town.
Which is crazy.
No comedy in Palm Springs.
Crazy.
Oh, it was heaven for me. I'm like, oh, this is amazing. I don't have to drive all over LA and begging for stage time. And
you guys invited me out. I came out and did a show, and the audiences are so warm and so wonderful. They're not judging. They want to have a good time. They're there to have a good time.
Yeah, because we don't have it.
Well, but you gave them something to work with. You were hilarious. You were hysterical. But it's the Palm Springs state of mind. Everyone is either retired or on vacation.
Or gay.
Or gay. Gay, retired, and on vacation.
Right? Well, I always say, if you lined a lot of people retired there. If you lined up all the senior citizens in Palm Springs end to end, most could never get up again. And if you lined up all the gay guys end to end, you'd have the white party.
Yeah. Or a human centipede.
Yeah, Human
Ooh.
Centipede. Yeah,
I saw that movie. Ooh.
It's funny because
See that movie?
I can't watch that. Ugh.
Selene, when Selene was going to move out here, I was talking to her and she's like, "I can't wait to get involved in the comedy scene there." And I was like, Selene, there's no comedy scene here. We're going to have to create one.
And you did.
And we did immediately. We got to work.
Yeah,
it was wonderful.
And she's
You brought down great people. You didn't just scrounge around, and like you brought people like from LA that were really great.
I did, and with Paul's support, we were able to like put together some really strong lineups. I mean, we decided, Paul and I, that if we're gonna start a comedy scene in Palm Springs, let's start with the best. I mean, let's just go for it. And there's nothing wrong with open mics and comics developing, but we wanted to start with a bang, and that's what we did. But then COVID hit, and
oh God,
it pulled the rug right from underneath, And,
yeah, but
I think they'll open up.
The
numbers are good in Palm Springs, right? Are the numbers low as far as?
Yeah, it's getting lower and lower and lower. It's doing pretty well, and we all wear our masks out here diligently, and we were working with putting together a contract to go into a bigger venue, and so we hope to pick that up as soon as we can resume with live shows. But Selene and I are definitely going to keep Palm Springs International Comedy Festival presents Selene Luna and Friends going when that does happen. And she has got amazing friends. Like,
yes,
if you want to be entertained, like, you definitely need to come to one of her shows out here because it is amazing. So I would encourage people.
We're very fortunate that we get to bring out and work with very seasoned and experienced comics. So it's always a great show, And
it's always different. But I think it'll open up in Palm Springs because it promises to spread out. It's not congested like New York. You're not on top of each other. Mm-hmm. And I've got good news that I heard today that I'll share with you guys. Okay. I've been calling comedy clubs and bookers across the country to judge the Palm Springs Comedy Festival. And the Laugh Factory in Chicago is open. They're doing shows again.
Wow, that's great.
They have a big theater. They have 300-seat theater. They're only putting in like 50 people. So, but they said 50 people, but they're so hungry for it that they're like, it feels like 300 because they're happy to be there. Same like Palm Springs, they're happy to be there, and they're doing shows Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights with a small audience in a big venue and wearing masks, and everyone's having a great time. So it's starting to happen.
That's great.
That's encouraging. But let's get real. The numbers are off the charts.
Yeah.
Corona infections, and I don't know. I'm remaining.
It's terrifying.
It's terrifying. I mean, I have lost family members, and it's a really heavy issue. And I cannot stress enough. People watching, look, trust me, I miss live shows.
Please.
I'm dying to get out there. I miss being on stage, but the sooner people can calm down, stay home, wear a mask. The reason we're in this mess is because people weren't adhering to wearing a mask or sheltering in place. Had everybody done this the first
immediately
into it, we'd be like New Zealand right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
This is just gonna keep snowballing. Sorry, I'm like a party.
It's the political activist in her. I love it.
We have the perfect song. In the month of October, you can stay home, be completely socially distanced, and be entertained for an entire week. Comedy all day, all night.
With the Palm Springs International Comedy
Festival. And the drinks are cheaper at home.
Yeah. Anyway, it's tough times, but that's when we got to do our job and entertain people and make people laugh.
You have to.
Yeah. And laughter is healing, and I think we could all use some right now, and I think it's great. I mean, a lot of festivals decided not to go online and just to postpone it for another year, but we decided to go online and try to bring some joy and laughter and pick people's spirits up. And this year we usually have a fancy red carpet dinner awards gala here in Palm Springs for the celebrity honorees that we honor who have done great work in comedy in the industry. And this year we decided to put it online and let the fans see it for free. So we're happy to have you join us and honor you for all that you've done for diversity. If
do you have a quarantine joke? Do you have a quarantine joke or a COVID joke?
Oh man!
I know I'm putting you on the spot. No, do you have a favorite? How does my favorite joke? Do you have a favorite joke?
Do I have a favorite?
Either it's yours or someone else's. Just a favorite old joke.
Yeah, I do. I have a favorite old joke. I beat this one to the ground, but it always gets annoying. People often stare at me because I'm a little person, and which, honestly, it's fine because I understand, you see somebody, you want to look. But there are some people who can't stop staring, and those are the people that I just want to calmly and quietly go up to and say, no one else can see me.
That is amazing.
Thank you, Max.
No, that is amazing.
Translates here, but
now, so when you write, do you sit down and write and think of an idea, or do you just get on stage and flow with something?
No, usually, an incident, something will happen in my life, and I'll just think, oh, that's funny, and then I just write. I jot down a note on my phone.
Yeah.
I'll just jot down like a note, and then I'll try to work it out on stage.
So you just this is my thing I'm talking about.
I'll try to develop the note on stage.
Yeah.
That I do miss that very much about COVID is that we can't work out material.
Mm-hmm.
You can do. I've been doing Zoom open mics.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, almost every night because I don't have to leave my house. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. How are you enjoying it?
Yeah, it's different. I mean, it's not the same as it, but it's easy. You can stay at home. Well, quite honestly, it's the thing that saved me because I would have gone nuts. Because I live alone, so I've been all alone. So, but every night I can at least be like this and talk to comedians and we joke and we try stuff out, and there's less pressure.
Yeah.
Because like you can read if you want. It doesn't matter. You're sitting at your desk,
Right.
It's not the same thing. It's a little harder to connect and.
Yeah.
It's not the same.
Yeah.
But you can work things out, and if nothing else, you get to like have a sense of community.
That's really encouraging. I should give it a try.
I'll hook you up.
Cool.
So where could people catch up with you now? We're gonna wrap it up, but where could people catch up with you? Why don't you tell people how to contact you?
People can catch up with me on Instagram and Twitter. Actually, I see that it says Facebook scrolling, but I don't have Facebook.
You don't?
No, I'm not on Facebook. I have a thing again. I hate Facebook. I'm not into Facebook. I don't Facebook.
Although this will be streaming live on Facebook.
Watch it. Sorry, Facebookers, but meet me at Instagram, Selene_Luna, or Twitter, Selene Luna. And there's always my website, seleneluna.com. You can always reach me through my website.
Yeah, and you're going to be doing some amazing shows. We're going to have you back to some of your amazing shows and your amazing lineup for the Palm Springs International Comedy Festival. You're going to be doing a lot with that.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I said totes amazing.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And also, we're going to premiere a trailer of yours later with your comedy special that's coming out, directed by Margaret Cho. That helped.
Yay, thank you.
And I can't wait to do that. But thank you so much for your time. It's been so much fun hanging out with you as always.
So awesome.
Thank you guys.
Getting to know you.
Mwah.
And we'll see you guys all. And you guys check out Selene's Facebook. I mean, not Facebook. I'm sorry. Website. Check out her website. It's amazing. There's great photos on there and videos.
Oh, they're great photos.
Yeah. So and hit her up on Instagram.
And viewers, please attend the Palm Springs International Comedy Festival online. We promise to make you laugh and have a great time.
Oh, yeah.
That's right. All right, guys. We're out. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much for joining us.
Bye.